Hi guys, Johnny. So today I thought we was going to take a look at the spring sphere thing I posted yesterday. So let's jump into it. Okay, I'm the first to admit that I might actually have some kind of substance abuse issue in regard to the green solver. Whatever I do, I just tend to kind of circle back to using that. But what can I say? It's just so versatile. Everything from doing like the rubber I did from the water balloon, you do soft bodies. I actually have an upcoming scene file I'm going to share where I use it for do paint flakes and kind of drying, crumbling paint on an object. It's just so useful. And in this case, I'm once again using it to do just a basic soft body simulation. And I'm using the granular solid up in the shelf tool. And I really don't use the shelf much, but this kind of stuff, or like doing some simple pyro stuff, just setting up the basics. But it's actually preferable not to build all this stuff yourself, to get into it. But in this case, I just wanted to have the foundation to start working. So if we jump out to the dock network, when you use this, it's actually going to set up the sprites and stuff like that, which I deleted here. I also added the ground plane. But this is the simulation we have. Really simple, really fast. It's gonna behave kind of differently if you, let's jump back to the green source here. The point separation, you have the packing density, stuff like that, and you can like the constraints. So yeah, I just wanted to have this really simple foundation to start working on my actual idea, creating the springs and replacing the polygons with the springs. So the first thing we're going to do here is going to use the convert line solve. And this is going to convert the polygons to individual polylines per polygon. So the idea here is we want to replace each of these polylines with a spring. So let's start by creating that spring. First off, we're going to use a circle. Let's just show the points. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a polygon circle. I'm going to use an open arc and I'm going to do 3600 degrees. This is going to be 10 turns. And if I'm doing 10 turns, I'm going to have a lot of points. So I'm just upping the point to 1200. And it's also a number I need to kind of, or I want to remember, because I'm going to use that in the next step. So what I'm going to do now, and it's really simple, is instead I'm going to add the point number divided by 200. So 1200 divided by 200 is 6. So it's going to spread them out from 1 to 6, which also means I'm actually going to jump back up and I'm going to move this by 3. So when this is done, it's going to be centered. So now I have the basis for my spring here. The next step is I want to center these ends, right? So I'm just going to do that with an edit. And as I know I have 1200 points here, or 1201 points. I'm just gonna use 0.0 and 0.1200, which is gonna be my edges. And I'm just gonna scale them down. And I'm gonna use the soft radius. And that is gonna give me this spring. The next step I wanna do is I'm just gonna extend the edges just a bit, because I wanna have a bit more distinct separation between these when I replace the polylines with this spring. And I'm gonna scale it down. So here I have a facet node. It's right on it. It's from an earlier setup. So now I have my spring and I have my simulation with my lines. So what I want to do is I want to replace each of these lines with this spring. And I'm actually going to use a hack. I'm going to use a pointer form inside a for each loop. And I'm going to use the pointer form to replace each of these incoming lines. The number of loops this for each is going to do is going to be decided by the incoming primitives, because I'm running this over primitives, right? Whatever times this is going to go in, it's going to pipe out in the bottom. But I'm going to replace this by each of these steps. I'm going to pipe in the spring instead. And that is what is going to come out down here. But it's going to come out deformed, because on each step, I will deform this to its position. And to do this, I need to have a rest line that is going to match my incoming primitive here. And I solve this by, let's do this, just take a single pass here. I'm gonna resample this 10 seconds. And then I'm gonna take my spring up here. I'm gonna blast everything except the endpoints. And then I'm gonna resample that. And suddenly I have one line, which is from my simulation, that is matching my spring. And these two are going to be my inputs down here, right? Because I want to have, if you see down under, that is going to be the deformed input. This is going to be the rest input. And this is going to be the geometry it deforms. So this is a hack, but it works. So when I go down here, boom, look at this thing. That looks awesome. And this is actually the point of this walkthrough, because the idea I had to do this did not work. This was my first problem I got. And I thought, oh, I need to have more data to be able to deform each of these. Let's try polyline. I'm just going to have like a small wire radius and 8 divisions. I'm going to do this on both. So this is my wrist. And this is the one I'm going to deform it to. Boom. Look at that. Suddenly I have enough points to be able to have this spring deform correctly to this position. Well, this is just going to be tweaking sliders. You just pull and just try stuff in until it kind of works. It's a radius, each different point between your rest and your deform. The distance is going to check for the movements, and how many points per point it's going to deform. So I mean, this is just stuff you need to experiment with. But this is my basis, and suddenly everything worked. Look at this. It's just awesome. I'm going to fuse it. I'm going to do a polywire. Oh, that's awesome, right? Let's check the file cache. Let's play this. And that sucks. The thing is, most of the stuff I do, I run into this. It works mostly. So you think, somehow I need to have this working. And funny enough, it's really simple. So this is how I made it work. I actually created the spring sphere first. So this is what I'm going to input directly into the final deform, which is based on the grain simulation. And this was, I used this before in the first setup. So I piped the output of the deformation of the grain simulation into this setup. Now I'm actually going to set up this spring first. I'm going to have a static. It's not going to do anything. And look at this. That is awesome. This is actually due to the simulation of simulating on the first frame. So if I jump a frame, it's going to match up perfectly. And it's going to be white because somehow it's some kind of graphics error in Houdini 16.5. But really doesn't matter. Just to recap, I'm going to create exactly as I did before. And I have a redundant facet node here. Let's get rid of that. And it works the same way. I'm going to convert the sphere to line. I'm going to resample. I'm going to do polywire. But this is what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a static model. And that I'm going to deform. Add some polywire, and we are done. And of course, in the final scene file, I have like ground plane and I have lights and stuff. But I wanted to create this specifically just to go through the mistakes I did in the first setup, because I think that is going to be more helpful than just showing a walkthrough on the perfect scene file.